How do you heal properly after you leave a toxic relationship so that you never attract an unhealthy one ever again? By the end of this video, you'll know the 3 key principles to healing effectively from a toxic relationship so that you never attract another unhealthy one. These are principles that focus on healing the core wounds from where they live in the body, as opposed to the work done in therapy, talk therapy that get you stuck in the mind and keep you circling the drain, so to speak. Like Mary, who spent years in therapy trying to break her unhealthy relationship patterns, she actually has therapists as parents. And using these 3 steps, Mary no longer attracts unhealthy partners and feels peaceful about her future and fine if she never meets someone. If you want to get to that same place as Mary, this is the work that I do and that I'm really passionate about. You can book a call with me in the link below. We'll speak, get on a call, and we'll chat about how I can best guide you on that journey. Now, when you've come out of a toxic relationship, you've probably experienced gaslighting, manipulation, emotional abuse, and your trust has been broken. You're probably holding on to a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, some really extreme emotions. You've lost your identity, right? You're feeling lost in the world because you thought that he was the one. You thought that it was going to work and it kind of crashed and burned around you. Now, before we go into the 3 principles, I want you to go through some key steps to healing if this is where you're at. These foundational steps are really important. And the first one, which I think everyone here on YouTube has a consensus around, is to go no contact, okay? You need to develop the discipline of setting boundaries around your contact with that person, and the best and easiest thing to do is to block them everywhere you can. Call in your support network to do that, and do the internal work that allows you to grieve what has happened. If you want help around that, I have a free guide that contains a 60-day no contact step-by-step process, and you can download that in the link below. Secondly, please acknowledge the abuse that's happened to you, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the mistrust. Really embody and acknowledge that. Write that story if you need to. Write the words down. Have conversations with people that you trust about what actually happened to you, because often when you're in an unhealthy situation like that, that person's trying to remove you from your support network and you kind of go into a bit of hiding mode and you don't tell people how bad it is. When you've left the relationship, you need to get that all out into the light, talk with the people that you know will support you around it. Don't downplay or ignore or push down what happened to you and the horribleness of it. And don't gaslight yourself into thinking it wasn't that bad. That internal gaslighting is something you really got to look out for, because it was bad, okay? Thirdly, you've left a relationship and you were going through a natural grieving period. It doesn't matter how bad it was, it doesn't matter how awful they were, you still love them on some level and you need to grieve that loss. So a breakup really is a transition phase. You've got to withdraw from that person, withdraw from that container with them despite how bad it was, and allow yourself to grieve. And time here is your best friend, right? Allow time to pass while you're in no contact, and make sure you are in no contact at this point. I see and speak to women who go into no contact for 3-5 days, a week, 2 weeks. They feel fantastic and they're like, oh, no problem, I can reach out and just have a little text message with him or whatever. And boom, it takes them right back to the beginning, and it's as if that healing period didn't happen at all. It really makes them regress. So I urge you to not do that. Use the guide that I have in the comments to get you through the no contact period. Give yourself the gift of no contact during this time before you dive into these principles. Now, these 3 principal steps are designed to break the cycle of toxic relationships if that's something that you've been going through again and again. They will not only help you move on from your ex and heal, like those foundational steps that I just mentioned, but they will stop the cycle from occurring time and time again. Now, if you've ever been to therapy or tried modalities to heal and nothing's actually worked, these principles are a game changer. Like I mentioned from Mary, they actually worked, and they're principles to live your life by. If you have a history of falling into unhealthy and toxic relationships, you need to keep working on and embodying these principles. So let's dive in. Principle 1 is clearing toxic and trauma energy within you. Now, when you've had a toxic relationship or multiple toxic or unhealthy relationships, your body only knows that, right? It doesn't know what a safe, healthy relationship feels like. And that's because you're actually carrying stored trauma energy that's built up in you over time. So this principle is focusing on doing the activities and tools and healing work to allow you to clear that energy. Now, in terms of talk therapy can be really useful for organizing and understanding and creating stories in our mind. But if you've ever done talk therapy over a period of time, you might notice that in talking about it and reliving your history and past, it actually has this magnifying effect. So we need to focus on what I call bottom-up healing work. And this isn't just like any kind of somatic therapy. This is actually focusing on the core wounds created by having these toxic relationships in your life. And these core wounds actually have lived in your body for quite a period of time, because if you keep attracting unhealthy relationships, you probably had an unhealthy childhood where you felt a sense of abandonment or neglect or rejection, and those core wounds were actually created when you were very young. So look into your family of origin. If you're not aware of it, if you need to talk about it or just kind of get a little bit of cognitive understanding, but don't stay stuck up there. Really, the focus is clearing the core wounds at the level of the body. Now, how do we actually do that? So the trauma energy in your body is like frozen energy that's trapped inside of you, because every time you've felt an emotion around abandonment or neglect or, rejection, you actually have stuffed that emotion down and down. So there's been an internal process of kind of stuffing down, and that causes you to feel emotionally unstable on the inside, and almost like you might cry at the drop of a hat if you even think about someone leaving you, or if you think back to the breakup, because the bigger the core wounds are, the more quickly you'll feel those intense emotions. So right now, watching this video, you will either feel intense emotions really quickly, and when you try and drop into those core wounds, you'll start to cry straight away, or you'll feel completely numb because they've been so overwhelming for you and you're disassociated from what's actually going there. But you're aware that there's something going on down there, and that's kind of actually what's causing your patterns. And you distract yourself as a habit to avoid feeling feelings. Now, in order to actually clear, we have to focus on and give attention and space to these emotions in the body. And because we haven't had the capacity to do that in the past, and the disassociation and the kind of the numbing and the repressing has been a coping mechanism so that you don't get overwhelmed by the depth and breadth of these emotions, we need to make sure when we do this, we don't overwhelm ourselves. We don't go outside our window of tolerance, okay? So we have to also focus on, while clearing and feeling our emotions, we have to increase safety in the body, increase our window of tolerance to feel them. So while focusing on and allowing ourselves to feel what's going on in the body, we need to focus on our nervous system as well. We've got to regulate our nervous system. Now, chances are you're probably in a dysregulated state because of what's been going on with leaving the toxic relationship, with the buildup of the wounds and the pain inside of you, and you might be in fight, flight, freeze, kind of stuck in that place. And so the first thing you need to do, probably even before you start to feel, is just to start to notice how your nervous system is feeling, whether you're breathing properly, whether you're breathing from the belly, are you drinking enough water to keep yourself hydrated, how are you feeling in your body, are you relaxed or are you on edge and stressed all the time, and what relaxation things you can do to allow yourself to down-regulate and come into more of a rest and digest state. So things that will help with that are self-soothing skills. Just type self-soothing skills into YouTube. It will help. Somatic practices like yoga, breath work, they will all help you with your nervous system. They won't target the core wounds, but they will help the kind of external body that's grown up around the core wounds to relax a little bit more and feel safe. So once you're able to feel a bit more safe in the body, that will increase your window of tolerance, and you'll be able to shine a light on these core wounds. Some people call it the wounded inner child, the emotions that you are carrying deep down inside there. Now, this is the work that I do directly with my clients. So if you want help with this, I urge you to book a call. There is a link to my calendar in the description below. Principle 2 is called connecting to your true self. So once you've started learning how to clear, you can then start to connect to the parts of you that are you without trauma, right? Your authentic true self. So this is where you start to trust signals that come from your body that tell you what's right for you, what boundaries you need to set, what you actually need to feel loved, and how to meet that need, which is what self-love is all about, right? We can't do those things while we're still in this kind of trapped trauma state. So we've got to actually start clearing it, as I talk about in step 1. So once you start to clear a little, you start to see the light a bit and you start to feel a bit more yourself. That's where you can start to grow a stronger connection to your true self. This is where self-trust forms, because you're starting to listen to those signals from your body and acting from your true self and always acting in your own best interest. That is what self-trust is. Signals from the body can be confusing and get confused if you haven't cleared your trauma. So some people, I often get asked, is it my intuition or is it my anxiety, right? Now, we need to learn discernment about the internal parts within you. Are they your true self or is it trauma? Good question. So the quickest way that I teach this, that I want to teach you now, is how you feel in your body when you're thinking that thought or feeling that feeling. When that thought or feeling comes up, I want you to use this frequency chart here to notice, do you feel expanded in your body? And expanded are the emotions from around neutrality, willingness, and up. Or do you feel contracted in your body, which is kind of courage and pride and below? You might be feeling love, what you think is love, but you're actually experiencing contraction in the body. And that is, if it's coming from a place of trauma, that love is actually mixed in with fear, most likely, and desire. Notice fear and desire right next to each other there. And so that is coming from a place within you that is a trauma response. So true love actually feels expanded in the body. It feels free. It feels somewhat detached. That might all seem like a pipe dream or, completely like, what are you talking about? That sounds ridiculous at the moment because you've only ever experienced love in this kind of trauma bonded way. But this frequency chart gives you the key to do that. So in order to have this ability to check in whether you're feeling expanded or contracted, you've got to have a certain level of body awareness. So the more that you clear in step 1, the easier it is to connect to your true self and really be able to discern what's going on. And also the safety piece is important here, because if you're in a constant state of dysregulation, everything's contracted, right? Nothing's going to feel expanded. So start to regulate your nervous system, increase safety, because a safe nervous system is an expressive nervous system, and that's where you can discern and get a wealth of information about what's going on in your internal world. Now, principle 3 is creating from your embodied self. And this is taking the tools and skills you've learned from principle 1 and principle 2 and applying it and creating it now in terms of what you want to have in your life. So how do you apply those skills into your real world, and how do you let those affect your real world and turn your real world into what you want, okay? Now, embodiment is how you embody within yourself as you show up in your life. If you've not heard of embodiment before, it's literally stepping into a version of yourself that's having the life that you consciously want to have, as opposed to letting trauma and letting the past live your life and all these unconscious patterns are just going on, and you're sitting in the back seat of the car and your wounded inner child has her sticky hands on the steering wheel. That's an unconscious way of living. Conscious embodiment of our values and standards and what we want to have is what this principle is all about. So embodiment actually works like manifestation. When you do embody it in this way and you've cleared a lot of your trauma and you've really connected to what's true to you, you will draw people and things to you that have the same energy that you do. We can't actually manifest successfully while there is trauma or a large amount of trauma in the body, because we will actually keep manifesting the same people and things that replicate the energy that we've still got within ourselves. So that's when we keep attracting the same unhealthy partners or toxic types of partners into our relationships. Now, embodiment is also key to permanent change, right? So if you only do the work of creating your life and manifesting your life from the top down, which is where you think about your values, standards, and goals, and you are manifesting by just repeating mantras in the mind, you're actually cutting yourself off from the neck up, because your body is an incredible manifestation tool or an embodiment tool. I don't actually teach manifestation on this channel, but they're very much similar things. So developing from an embodied, conscious self and harnessing the huge power of the body's capacity to feel that what you want is already having, and you're already having the relationship you want to yourself and to others, brings with it a lot of power. It takes discipline, it takes effort at the start, but as you practice it over time and do principle 1 and 2 as well, you will over time naturally become more embodied authentically, and you will actually recreate that feeling in your body without even having to think about it. So this means that when you're dating, you can pick up on red flags and a mismatch in compatibility a lot more quickly because you're in this embodied state, instead of being drawn to inconsistent, unreliable, emotionally unavailable types of people that you're drawn to subconsciously because one of your parents is probably emotionally unavailable. Instead of that kind of old unconscious pattern replaying again and again, you're in this new embodied state where that actual behavior repels you because it doesn't match the healthy relationship you have with yourself and the one that you're creating with others. So healthy, safe love does start from within. Honestly, I do see people that go into relationship wounded and they do create it through the relationship, which is so beautiful as well. But this channel is about helping you to break patterns within yourself so that you can attract that healthy love to you. So doing this within yourself is going to also allow you just to feel happy and safe and at peace to wait until someone comes to you who can actually meet you where you're at and provide you with what you want. Now, if these 3 principles spoke to you and you want to dive into them more, I teach a full webinar for 1 hour on these 3 principles, and I actually take you through a clearing tool. So if you want to actually get started, do the work, do a tool, I want you to join my webinar in the link below. All right. And there are some more videos for you now to watch to help you, again, go through these principles and learn an even more safe, embodied, healthy relationship to yourself. And for now, I will see you in the next video.